Thank you very much. With that, let's now begin with the presentation where we're going to witness the digitization in a VUCA world. Over to you, Mr. Mehta.
Thank you. So let me first begin by thanking each of our prospects, all customers, prospects who didn't buy from us, and customers with whom we have been working. It has been the entire learning, everything what we do today is just because of our customers and the prospects. So thank you so much for that, first of all. I would take a reference from the previous panel discussion, things about educating people in the rural areas or how to tackle monkeys. So I think that's what we are talking about. It's VUCA world, so which is volatile, which is uncertain, which is complex and ambiguous. So how do we prepare for that? On the other side, we do have pressure from our business to grow at the pace which we have never seen. So how do we really handle these two things, this dichotomy? How do we handle? There is so much of uncertainty, we want to do so much. There is so many challenges. So how do we address that? So in next 15 minutes, I'll try to kind of bring these two things together. How do we handle this uncertainty, this complexity and ambiguity in a more certain way, in a more reliable way? So I think, I'm Lalit, by the way. I'm Lalit from Decimal Technologies. So I'll quickly kind of run you through what Decimal does. Audio? Can we have the audio, please? Volume? I'm sorry, we missed the audio, and I think I'll have to do more hard work to keep you engaged. I thought the video and the audio will do that, but audio couldn't really be done that, play its role. So let's simply look at what are the challenges. Although we've been hearing these challenges since morning, but let's quickly kind of give some structure to the challenge that we have. So on one side, we have rapidly changing market and competition. In the first session, we saw Paytm giving competition to SBI. We have e-commerce companies giving competition to banks today. Google is entering into payment space. So this entire boundaries of what business competition is doing is kind of just blurring. So that's one. On the other side, we were talking of hybrid model in the previous session where we talked of whether we should have branches or we should go digital. So now the market is changing. The market is changing in the sense, we never thought of a small bank which is based out of some Chikmagalur to service customers in Delhi. That was never a possibility earlier. So that's becoming a possibility. So how do we really address these kind of challenges? Then we have regulatory challenges. We heard of regulations being made for monkeys and monkeys to be considered for that. So we know the regulation is changing because there is so much around which the regulations are being made that's changing. The entire biometrics stuff, entire personal information, entire privacy thing. So regulatory things, the environment is expected to remain uncertain for some time. We don't see regulator to be very certain. Doesn't seem to be working. Yeah. So regulatory uncertainty will continue for some time with newer technological advancements like blockchain coming in, AI coming in, IoT coming in. Of course, we can't expect the regulator to be giving us very clear regulations upfront. So I think regulator is also learning. And as we are going ahead, regulatory certainty is kind of coming as we move forward. So that's challenge number 2. Then we have rapid technology advancement. Now we are done with one implementation. Before it's rolled out, we have something else coming up. The entire way the delivery used to happen of technology solutions is changing. We never heard of solutions being delivered in matter of weeks and matter of hours. In legacy think, any system that was bought by a CIO, the time horizon was 5 years or maybe 10 years. Today the time horizon, it reduced to 3 years, and now I think time horizon is going to be in months. So any CIO would have to be ready to write off a system in a matter of months before that becomes obsolete. So how do we take care of that? Adoption, very interesting. So if you look at adoption, we talked of call center, we talked of entire hybrid model. Look at, I think in times to come, in just about 10 years from now, there'll be 2 kinds of engagements that will be possible. So today we have 3 kinds of engagements. It's totally self-service, which is like a mobile banking, or completely self-service modules that you have. Then you have completely physical and engaging, and then there are transactional engagements. So look at transactional engagements like call center. You call up a call center, you don't feel connected to it. It seems as if you're talking to a machine. The experience is not something that you carry back and you with pleasant memories and all. And then third kind of connectivity, what let's say people like my father or my grandfather would want to do is, he wants to visit a branch because he wants to feel connected. He wants to learn something from the branch. So I think these 3 kind of engagements, the middle one, where transactional engagement happens today, is going to go away. We'll have only 2 kinds of engagements. Either it will be self-service, or people would want to engage either to feel connected or to learn something. And another thing that we talked of education, I think nobody teaches a kid how to speak his mother tongue. Nobody teaches a kid how to walk. I think digital is going to become so ubiquitous. The education as a separate vertical is not going to be there. I don't think thinking of education as a separate vertical or training as a separate vertical is something which is going to make sense. The whole idea is that entire education has to be embedded in the way we live today. The entire training has to be embedded in the way we design our applications. So we'll talk about that too. I think these challenges that I said, we can't wish them away. We don't want the markets to stop changing. We don't want regulator to stop bringing up new regulations. We don't want people's behavior to change, because all this is giving us an opportunity to grow our business. A small bank could not have thought of becoming a large bank or give competition to likes of SBI or HDFC until a few years back. But now it's possible. So we don't want to wish them away. We just want to be prepared for them. So how do we prepare for these challenges is very important for us to know. But on the other side, if you look at, so these are business challenges. Now think of delivery guys, those who are delivering these technology solutions within your organizations. How do they take care of these challenges? What challenges they have inside? Legal and compliance. Since we don't have nobody has experience in the bank to roll out digital solutions, it's very difficult to get approvals. It takes months together to get compliance and legal approvals. So how do we solve this? How do we take care of, I think we talked of alliance between channels, we talked of alliance between different kind of form factors. I think it's alliance between various players, various banks to come together and start creating an ecosystem where the clarity on regulation and compliance is much more and it's a little proactive. On the other side, we also need to look at partners now who start engaging with the banks or with the regulator and make sure that they understand the regulatory environment before they propose the solutions. So the entire regulator, legal and compliance angle is everybody's responsibility. It's not only the compliance of the department. It has to exist. It has to be there, but I think all others need to start playing that role to shorten that period. Organization for innovation. I think if you typically look at how we run our BAU systems, we have various departments. We typically run our systems as if we are running assembly lines. In assembly line, every individual or every station is an expert at doing a specific task. And that expertise is acquired because the guy keeps doing the same task over and over again. And he has been doing the same task for much longer time, so that's why he's an expert. Now what we have been trying to do in some organizations at least, we've been trying to do innovative stuff through assembly lines. Now the problem is, nobody is an expert in that area. What we are trying to do for the first time. You can't expect any expertise in the area which is being done for the first time. So the assembly line technique will not work. We cannot have a BAU, and by the way, that perfectly works fine for BAU. Now for BAU, the structure that you have, that same structure just cannot work for the new digital solutions or innovative solutions that we're talking of. So what do we do then? So fortunately, manufacturing as an industry has done, has been way too old. Manufacturing introduced something called Nagare sales. So there's a concept called Nagare sales. In Nagare sales, whenever let's say Honda needs to develop a concept car that needs to be shown in, let's say, some auto expo. Now you cannot develop that concept car in an assembly line. Now what do we do there? So they come up with, all experts have to come together, and that's taken up as a project. And that project is taken up by one team, and until it is ready to become a BAU and go into a mass production, it cannot be assembly line. So I think we need to adopt something very similar. Although Agile tries to do that, but I think as a mindset, we need to start changing that. So Agile is a term which has been kind of talking about this for quite some time. But we need to kind of start thinking of every innovative stuff like Nagare sales. Then digital maturity, I think very interesting stuff in the previous session. We talked of education, we talked of, think of cell phone. Each one of us have a cell phone. When the telephony was there, cell phone was only to make calls. Cell phone was designed, or the phones, not the cell phones, but the phones that used to exist earlier, they were designed to do a phone call, because the company that was offering the phone only knew about the telephony. It didn't know about anything else. Now today's cell phone offers you everything that a user needs. Cell phone is your camera, cell phone is your voice recorder, cell phone is your calendar, cell phone is your diary, cell phone is your telephone, it's your video calling device. So if you look at when Sony comes up with a cell phone, it doesn't give you only camera or only the video capability. So the entire cell phone as a device has been designed thinking user in mind. The only thing which has been in mind is user. What all a user needs, or what all a user can use the cell phone for. I think we need to have similar mindset here. So when we started digital, I remember 15 years back or 10 years back, we used to think of apps which would extend my core system. So I would have an app for core banking, I would have an app for HR, I would have an app for my CRM. So the app or the extension of the user interfaces used to be on the core systems. We never thought of functions or user. Then came era which was function oriented. So HR as a function will come up with an app, or sales as a function will think of apps, or customer service as a function will think of apps. But I think let's think of another app now. I'm a user. I apply for a leave. When I apply for a leave, the app tells me when you are on leave in these 3 days, you are expected to lose this much of business because you have these many leads which may not be attended to, or you may lose business because you will not generate leads when you're there. When I create a lead, if the system tells me that you are expected to make this much of incentive if you close this lead in next 24 hours. So I think as a user, I don't want to see different apps. I want to see what's in it for me. With me is the word. As a user, I'm keen on seeing why should I be using that. I think the entire user orientation is something which is very, very important, and that addresses the problem that we talked in previous session, which was education. If you design an app for user with user orientation, trust me, the 80% of education job gets taken care of. We don't need a separate classroom to teach you how to use Uber or WhatsApp or even Zomato. I think the entire design needs to be done with user orientation. The that entire thing has been missing. So that's why we talk of separate training. I think training as a department will not be doing as much justice if you just do a well-designed app for a user. So, and the last challenge for delivery guys is the entire development life cycle. Getting approvals, you do discovery and then you design, then you develop, test and deploy. By the time the cycle finishes, which is typically let's say 3 to 4 months, the app is almost obsolete. By the time you launch a DBTL based app, the expectation is that the regulation gets passed and the entire DBTL thing becomes irrelevant, and now you want to offer Aadhaar to everybody. So how do you, this entire time span of couple of months when you used to launch apps and all is definitely going to be irrelevant. It's already irrelevant, I think. I think this needs to go away. This definitely needs to go away. And the next mantra could be, how can we do, think of Amazon, think of Google. Amazon launches hundreds of features every day. How do we do it? I think the good thing is, the good news is technology supports it today. Technology like no-code platforms, like entire data network that is being created through API gateways and all, and concepts like DevOps, it's very much possible. So I think in next couple of minutes, I'll try to walk you through, so since we as a company focus on development life cycles, I would want to walk you through the platform through which we offer this kind of a change. So okay, let me talk of scenarios first. So think of what I talked of, DBTL and all. So I'll quickly run you through this video. So this is a video which is relevant to pre-26 September era. I'm calling it an era under that period. A typical Aadhaar-based onboarding for a current or savings account. This was one. All of a sudden on 26th of September, there is a judgment, and everything in the investment that was done in last couple of months or years goes bust. Now, the challenge is it's not the investment which has gone bust. The challenge is the business for next couple of months also takes a beating. How do I acquire customers for next couple of months? So now let's look at the post 26 September, what is expected. It's an app where biometric is an option. It's an option for customers who want to use DBTL. The same thing. Now let's simply look at how much time do you have to do this, or how much time do you take in your organization to actually do it? If you say it's 3 months, then you are saying that I'm going to lose business to the tune of 80% for 3 months. If you're saying it's 1 month, then you're typically losing business for 1 month. And more than losing a business, the challenge is the discontinuity also calls for how do you get your users again motivated to use the app again? I think bringing back that continuity is another challenge. You would preferably want to do it in few days or in few hours actually. So how do we do that now? So these are the changes that you typically do. I'll skip this. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to skip that. So typically, we think that change can be delivered in 24 hours. The thing that we talked of, starting from conceptualization, the moment you say this is a process flow that we want to implement, to the delivery in the hands of the user, that can be typically achieved in 24 hours. And in 24 hours, what takes, in not 24-hour scenario, but in the scenario when it takes 3 months, what typically takes time is entire development, testing, deployment. So the whole idea is that today, no-code platforms cut down the entire development time, testing time, and there is no need for deployment. So let's simply look at that. So we introduce Vahana as a cloud platform. So I'll just quickly kind of go back to the previous slide. So if you typically look at what all you need to create apps, you need a UI, some interface, could be web, could be app, could be SMS, could be anything. There needs to be an interface. There needs to be something which connects that interface with your core systems. You need something that needs to be given to your operations. You need something which needs to be given in the hands of customer. I'm not talking of a typical mobile banking app. When you're doing your operations, when you're launching these kind of things, what you need to know from the customer, what documents or what information you need to know from the customer in a self-service mode, you don't even know. So how do you create these self-service apps? And of course, all the enablers and accelerators. So I'll just quickly show you a video. So just look at this video and then I'll talk about it. Great. So what you saw in this video was typically you would think it's either wireframing or it's InVision kind of screen designing that is being done. No. That's not reality. So that was app being developed. So the video that was shown, that was app being developed in real time. While you were thinking of app, you could actually create app. And by the end of that session, you can download a functional working app. So which means the entire development cycle can be cut down to definitely to the tune of 30% of actual time, or maybe 90%. It can be cut down by 90%. So the entire thought of team of developers sitting, doing coding, and then entire testing, code review happening, that is, I think that's the thing of past today. So you can typically drag and drop and create an app on the fly. And this is not a new concept that we're introducing. This has been existing for quite a few years now. I think I've not seen this. We have talked of low-code platforms, and now we are talking of no-code platforms. So let's look at another video, which is so I think in the interest of time, I'll skip that. So now what was this? Now that app needs to be connected to your core system. And your core system has got code or functionality written which cannot be exposed to internet, which cannot be exposed to a mobile app just like that. The entire security, the entire access control needs to be built around that. So how do you do that? So typically we end up writing a lot of APIs, we end up writing a lot of services. And those services mean again writing code, and that code needs to go through testing again, and that code again needs to go through the review, deployment, again the testing cycle, that cumbersome cycle. Now what you saw in that video, think of a stored procedure in Oracle and DB2 in any of the databases that gives you a functionality of checking a balance. Now you want to expose that stored procedure as an API in a secured manner and offer it to either a third party or make it available as part of your app. So you can pretty much do that through again drag and drop. The whole idea is that that stored procedure becoming available as an API on an app in a secured manner does not need any coding. So that's the second piece which is very key for us to deliver those apps. And this is more of operations, how your operations work today. I think in times to come, anyways the need for operations teams to do the document verifications or doing underwriting is going to go away. But till the time that happens, we need something which our operations teams need. And since the customer interface, since the products are changing, the entire operations process, the need of operations is also changing. So that also needs to change at the same pace. So it's kind of, how do you create operations applications through configuration? That's the third piece. And one very important piece is today, if you look at, we work for quite a few banks. And when Codagate 1.1 was launched, there was a leg which was launched along with this was doing a full KYC. So after you have done Aadhaar-based account opening, you need to now do a full KYC. And when you do a full KYC, somebody needs to visit the customer. Imagine something was picked up wrong. The name on the PAN card and the name on the form was not correct. And that form could be a digital form. Now what do you do now? So the choice of the correct name, or let's say you missed out a document or document was not clear, the choice of the name which is to be used in the account is to be left with the customer. The document that is needed by your operations or risk team is there with the customer. How do you get that? If a salesperson goes again, imagine your cost. Imagine the opportunity cost of that. So how do you do that? I think the whole idea is that we need to be able to create dynamic self-service apps. Imagine an ops guy says, I need one document, which is a copy of PAN card, mother's maiden name, and choice of whether the account is to be a single operator or it's either or survivor, kind of these things. This is what needs to be done and is figured out when the operations team is looking at it. So if an operations team guy is able to create this as a small applet on the fly, which goes as a link to the customer clicks, authenticates, answers these three questions, uploads the document, and done. And that data comes and sits as part of the same life cycle. I think the whole do-it-yourself concept needs to be thought rather than having a large workforce which does that. So that's another very important piece. And these are all accelerators. So now Vahana, the platform that we are talking about, we've been using whatever I've shown you on the video. These all these are the components of this platform that we have been offering to our clients in silos. They were kind of, they used to, they have been in use for a couple of years. The whole idea was to bring them together and make it as a connected thing where people on your side can create solutions on the fly. So I think Vahana could be a very interesting platform to solve the problems that we've been talking about. To kind of, and the whole idea is it's not just app, it's not just middleware, it's not just customer self-service. The whole idea is to look at the entire user. So for us, the user is the clients, the customers. So we've tried to become user-centric and see what all things a user that is a customer for us needs, and how can we bind that together to offer one single solution. So that's what we have tried to do. And we have tried to bring all of this together to make sure that no piece is left. Because think of a highway. You have a express highway, and the moment you come out of an express highway, there is a kacha road, or there is a road where there is a complete traffic jam. That highway doesn't help. That highway doesn't help because and ultimately to get to the destination, you also have to cross that bottleneck. So the whole idea is that until you make the entire thing, the entire path that I need to cover as an expressway, creating part of it as an expressway doesn't really help. So I think that's what you've tried to do through Vahana. So what solutions we have already delivered on this platform, which are typically BFSI solutions. Typical customer onboarding for CASA, current account and savings account. We activate close to about 5 million plus accounts every year on this platform. Lead management, we manage in excess of 120 million leads every year, and we have close to 120,000 plus users who use these solutions. Digital lending, I think that's, so we talked of, we just talked of, in the previous session, which was about B2B business, about commercial, about SMEs and all. So I think I totally agree with that discussion that the entire SME thing is going to become more and more important. Till now the focus was only on consumer, and now I think the focus is not going away from consumer, but focus is also coming on to MSMEs and small businesses. So how do we really enable banks to offer a loan? Imagine, I am a small Kiryana shop guy. I need to make a payment to HUL today. I need a loan of, let's say, 2 lakh rupees for practically 36 hours, or maybe only for, let's say, 1 week. And the process to get that loan today itself takes about a month's time, or three weeks time. So I think the entire digital lending and how can we get that approval done in a self-service more than 5 minutes is going to be more important. And we have recently launched a platform which is for entire SME lending. You can practically get a loan up to 5 crore rupees basis your GST and banking in matter of 5 minutes. So I think the whole idea is that it is to leverage the entire digital network, data network that is available today. I think we just need to start bringing the pieces together and not just think of our organization, the pieces existing within our organization. We need to start thinking of pieces existing outside of our organization.